Alcoholics Anonymous, like, hi, I'm Dan Swanson. Everybody, hi, Dan.
Hi.
No, doing BFA reading tonight. Everybody knows why we're here. We have a really special guest, Howard McCord, very well accomplished poet, has decided to join us. It's been a real pleasure being in the writing program at BGSU. My college career has been diverse and rocky, starting at Wichita State and somehow stumbling around and ending up here, and really found a home amongst all the faculty and students here. A lot of great friends that I've made here. I love you too, Kate. I love you so much. No. I'm no good at this, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. I've got a lot to get through anyway. This first piece is an excerpt from what I'm hoping becomes a novel. The novel is going to be called How to Kill a Dead Man. It's a terrible title, but that's what I'm going with. And the excerpt is titled Remember to Forget. Old means hard. Old means strong. Old is saying, fucking teenagers, and grabbing a sixth bottle of beer. Sitting on the porch and watching the sun go down. The streets filling with people, probably for another protest. Wishing it was still 1965. He hasn't fired a rifle in 50 years, but his hands remember. The trigger, the weight of the weapon, the recoil. Being in the shit and hearing the gooks in the brush. Bobby stepping on that claymore. Dogs bark in the distance and he drops the bottle. Drops the sixth bottle. Reaches for number 7. Grandchildren for his friends, none for him. He lost the only girl he could have made a life with when they shipped him home. War is like an old lover who packs at 3 a.m. and takes the car. She's never coming back to him. She wants younger, stronger men. Stupid men will fall for her charms. More jarheads to slog through jungles and take molten shrapnel in their hips. But she never lost him. That's the part he can't get over. She was still beautiful, still all he needed. The cooler is filled with empty bottles. Alexander Trask wears a bandana and tattoos like some wear sweater vests and reading glasses. The limp is from the mortar shell that ended his war. The 19-year-old kid in fatigues humping it across the jungle is trapped in old bones, old skin, old house, old dreams. The city spreads out before him, filled with steel beasts moving in herds through dark paths between concrete trees. He wishes the guns in his closet could be in his hands. The urban jungle traded in for South Asian shit and the cries of the wounded. Joints grind in protest as he gets out of the wicker rocking chair. He leaves the cooler full of brown bottles and melting ice on the porch, goes inside. It'll be there tomorrow. The door slams shut, the latch turns. There are no lights on in Trask's home. Dim orange comes through the windows to fill the front room and barely reaches the stairway. He makes his way up the stairs, floorboards groaning underfoot. The mirror on the wall of the landing gives him pause. An old man covered in ink. Gray hair tied back in the red silk of the bandana to reveal a thin face with a sharp nose and high cheekbones. Gandhi and Bon Jovi on the same leather-skinned chest. Peace signs and swastikas. Trask turns halfway around and studies the serpentine creature stretching down his spine and over his left hip. The dragon is finally finished. Its eyes a bright red, its scales black trimmed in gold, and its teeth and claws a dull bone white. Smaller creatures caper around it, keeping a safe distance. There's a leprechaun at the base of his neck, arms folded in disapproval as he sits atop a pot of gold, staring downward at the dark beast. The pot itself has the word lucky inscribed across its wide middle in green. A mermaid sprawls over Trask's side, ample bosom thrust out in a wanton display of feminine need, one hand crooked in a come-hither gesture towards the dragon's gaping maw. She clutches a butcher knife behind her back, and her fish-like lower half curves away from the creature. Beneath her wide tail fins are the words, "Make love, then war." He grabs the mirror by its sides, lifts it off the nail on the wall, and his back gives out. Trask stands up straight for a moment, reaching to replace the mirror, and all the strength leaves him, every muscle seizing before loosening and dropping his weight on his shaking legs. The old man stumbles to the floor, the mirror hitting the wall and cracking down the center. Thunder fills his head as he stares at the trembling codger split in half by the jagged spiderweb of the ruined mirror. He lets go of it and slides his hands up the wall, leans into the off-white drywall and stands up. Pain crackles up his spine and he turns against the wall. He pants and kicks the mirror over. Broken glass tinkles across the carpet. He'll have to wear the boots he bought the day he got back from the war, if he comes back down again. They set the traps in the dark, Bobby. Gotta watch your footing, he whispers as he hobbles to the bedroom door down the short hallway from the staircase. The door is closed and locked. Trask reaches into his right pocket and draws out his key ring. Both hands burn with the dry twisting of arthritis as he flips through the keys, his right shoulder against the door. It takes 2 tries to slip the key into the lock, and his knuckles crack as he slides the deadbolt back with a slow turn. The bed is still unmade, and the sheets are yellow on the right side from his last drunken evening. Trask shrugs and retrieves his keys, stuffing the ring back into his pocket before closing and bolting the door. The clock on the table by the bed flashes 12 over and over in bright green. He falls asleep in his silent home, filled with the stench of booze and urine, and dreams of the smell of burning flesh. 2. Trask wakes up soaked from the waist down. Bile creeps up his throat and he rolls over onto his stomach to reach the dry half of the bed. The clock on the end table nearby still reads 12. He shoves it onto the floor with a grunt. The water is cold and runs over his leathery skin, finding every dry crevice, every soaked fold. He stands under the shower head with his hands splayed against the tile to hold him up and steady the shaking of his spindly arms. There is no soap left in the bathroom, and he steps out onto the tile floor, dripping and trembling. No clean towels either. He grimaces and gets dressed, too cold to drip dry. Jesus, I hope Bobby remembered the beer. Trask shields his face as he opens the door and steps out onto the porch. His cotton shirt is transparent and clings to his skin. His hair still drips cold water, and his jeans are damper on the crotch as if he's pissed himself again. His boots slide on the wood and he grabs for the railing, letting out a whoop of surprise. The cooler lies on its side. Broken brown glass covers the porch and the dirt around it. Fucking teenagers. Last time he'd left 2 bottles unopened in the cooler and the little pricks drank one and broke the other on his door. The white paint is still stained a faint brown. His boots crunch over the brown shards as he walks out across his dooryard. The Jeep is caked with dust, the red paint only visible on the hood. It takes 4 turns of the key to start the engine, and the old man guides it down the road towards the city with his left hand on the top of the wheel. His right digs in the glove box, pulling out a half-empty pack of cigarettes and a box of matches. He strikes the match with his thumbnail and lights up, guiding the wheel with his knees. The first drag sends him into a series of deep, retching coughs, nearly driving his forehead into the steering wheel. He slams on the brakes and rides out the fifth, tossing the cigarette into the road. Gnarled hands grip the wheel, and his knuckles throb. He squeezes against the pane, gritting his teeth and spitting out the window. Ahead of him, the road twists sharply to the left, then to the right, and climbs a steep hill to the Lassiter place overlooking the city. The old man stomps on the gas, glass scratching between the leather soles and the plastic pedal, and ignores the pins and needles in his heel. Bobby Lassiter is sitting on his porch as the Jeep pulls up into his driveway. He's wearing fatigues and combat boots, and the 12-gauge Trask bought him for his last birthday leans against the wall next to him. His skin is the color of the bottle clutched in his right hand. As Trask slumps out of the Jeep and leans against the door, Bobby lifts his other hand in greeting. Well, fuck me running. How are you, old fellow? I need to get laid. Trask limps up to the porch and shakes his head when Bobby drags a chair up near his own. The old man sits down against the railing facing Bobby and squeezes his bandana out before tying it around his head. Shit, T-Bird, can you even get it up anymore? They both laugh, and then Trask nods up at him slowly. You know that hag at the parlor, Becky Timmons? Bobby leans forward, elbows resting on his knees. His head and face carry matching 4-day stubble. You're shitting me, man. Nope, hit that like the wrath of God. Bobby sits back in his chair, body shaking with laughter, and tears stream down his face. Shit, man, that's disgusting. Bobby goes inside and returns 5 minutes later with a cooler of his own full of brown bottles, and they each bite a cap off and spit it to the side. You know what chaps my ass, Bobby? What's that, T-Bird? These fucking kids, man. These little faggots come up to my house, smash up my bottles, break into my car. I ought to shoot one of them. Bobby nods, taking another pull on his beer and letting out a rumbling belch. Could, man. Really could. Bet you do real well in a prison full of big old country boys. Trask stares at him for a bit, tilts his head back to sip his beer, then winces as his skull smacks into the railing. You're an asshole. Bobby shrugs and looks at the city stretching out beneath them. The view is better up here than at Trask's house, and even the old man can pick out individual storefronts at the little strip mall on the edge of civilization. Becky's ink and piercing. Normally his next stop, but not today. Trask turns back to Bobby and points the beer at him, moving it side to side to get the boy's attention. 56, and Trask still thinks of him as the boy, little Bobby Jr. 50 years of keeping his promise to Bobby's father, and he's done his job. Bobby's retired, has a nice nest egg saved up. Trask frowns. Bobby grins at him nervously. You okay, Alex? He waves a hand in front of the old man's face, and Trask nods, rubbing his eyes. Yeah, I'm good. You know, I miss the old days when I'm up here. You mean with my dad? Yeah, man. Your dad, he was one of the good ones. The best, in fact. You really miss my dad, man? You're always itching to draw on some fool. I worry about you, T-Bird. The old man snorts and sets his empty in the cooler, grabbing another in its stead. Bobby sighs. I mean it, Alex. You should get the fuck out of that place, move someplace nice. Enjoy yourself before it's over. I am enjoying myself, Bobby. He thinks of the stained sheets on his bed and the pile of moldy towels in the corner of his laundry room. I like where I am now. Bullshit. I can help you out, man. Get you an apartment over near the parlor. Get you laid more if you live down there. Yeah, well. Trask takes 2 more swallows of his beer and sets it down on the porch.